So we're going to go to Syrian-Girl now. Of course, she's been a regular guest on the Alex Jones show before. Syrian-Girl, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to be back.
I discovered Syrian-Girl while following Gamergate. I can't tell you all the fascinating people I found under this hashtag. Not everyone is demented and practically useless like Anita Sarkeesian and Jonathan McIntosh. Some people are quite knowledgeable and doing useful work like Syrian-Girl. Anita doesn't even recognize the women in the gaming industry. While Anita is behind the curve in both video games and feminism, Syrian-Girl is on the ball on political issues like regional conflicts and terrorism. The sexism of damsels in distress and Miss Male made-up tropes are not even on her radar. With so many real aggressions and real troubles in her world, she doesn't have time to play the princess and the pea of microaggressions and whine about mean tweets. Unlike Sarkeesian and company, she has no delusion that Gamergate and gamers are some kind of terrorists. On the contrary, she thinks that social justice warriors and their plans of social engineering by video games are the real bad guys. She completely smashed the Law & Order SVU episode.
Hi everyone, this is Syrian-Girl, and this video is going to break down the Law & Order SVU episode, Intimidation Game, which whitewashed Gamergate and trashed gamers. The fact that SJWs have enough pull to have an SVU episode made should be yet another example of how far up this corruption goes. Shows like SVU and Homeland Security are useful tools to push the State Department agenda, and this is no different. I had already warned that the episode was going to portray gamers as rapists, and I said it was going to blow up in their faces. That is pretty much exactly what happened. So let's see what SVU are told that boys are inherently violent. Now they cross to video games to make the viewer associate video games with violent men, as if to say women can never enjoy violent games.
Move it, I'll blow your head off.
Throughout the episode, women are presented as ignorant about video games and have to have everything explained to them by a man.
Okay, I'm not going to understand a word that anybody's saying about this, so Finn, why don't you come with me to interview Sarah?
Cops. There were two of them. They were just like total FALs.
That's not even a thing.
Failures at life. Dachshunds when campers.
What's a camper?
They are not noobs.
Noobs?
Virtual reality.
Virtual reality?
It's like you're actually inside of the game.
I'm good.
An innovative new technology? She's good. As a woman, she's presented as being above video games, and gamers are presented as man-children.
Take that, bitch!
They're overgrown boys, like staring at a screen, pressing buttons. Isn't there a basketball game on or something?
In other words, cheering when a physical ball is being thrown around is more socially acceptable than a virtual game.
Go home, gamer girl. Go home, gamer girl.
What happened?
These guys, they just can't stand women in gaming.
Okay, but Sarah told me that the guys who did this don't like women in gaming.
Well, in their world, developers like God, and some guys aren't ready to give a girl that power.
The SVU writers seem to have no idea that women have been game developers since the creation of games. Roberta Williams since 1978, Carol Shaw since 1982, and Kim Swift, the creator of Portal, one of the most popular recent games ever made, who the majority of gamers love. Why in these 30 years have these women never been attacked if gamers hate women so much as these SVU writers claim?
There's a lot of haters out there that think she slept her way into the business.
Oh, right. She's engaged to that venture capitalist, Stephen Kaplan.
Okay, so because her fiance has money, that means she has no talent.
Delegitimizing concerns about nepotism and cronyism. How do these people sleep at night? This is exactly what Gamergate is about, and they're whitewashing it because they too are cronies.
If Miss Punjabi hadn't banged the money man,
Stephen and I are getting married.
Is that supposed to be the equivalent of Zoe Quinn having a relationship with a game reviewer that gave her non-game an award? Nobody cares who she's dating, it only matters that there was a conflict of interest and it wasn't revealed to the public. The whole Zoe Quinn thing is a red herring anyway. The cronyism goes all the way to the top, as seen by the strings that pulled off this episode.
so you'd agree that the criticisms of your work are rooted in misogyny?
This guy's supposed to be on her side, and he's still giving her a hard time.
Why is he supposed to be on her side? He's a journalist.
You're roping me into a feminist debate. I'm here to discuss my game.
If the game isn't about feminism, then why is it called Amazonian Warrior or Social Justice Warrior? They're trying to say that people are pissed off for no reason other than the fact that she's a woman.
These guys want Raina Punjabi out of the gaming world.
Just because she's a woman.
Guys who play it hate games like Reina's.
And why's that?
Amazonian Warriors is non-violent and non-stupid.
In other words, women can only make games that are non-violent.
There's nothing in the game for them to be angry about. You can choose how you play. You can wage peace or war.
I thought they said it was non-violent.
Or have a patriarchy or a matriarchy.
A patriarchy or a matriarchy, but no option where men and women are equal.
Be eco-conscious or industrialized.
I know. I read on Kotaku that it's better than Civ 5 with the Brave New World expansion pack.
Yes, you would read that in Kotaku. Now we get to see and insidious. Now they associate gamers with violence and sexual assault by using amateur juxtaposition. It's almost like their cheering is equivalent to beating women.
Yeah, they were like young, they were white but pale.
They were cis-white males.
Like kind of skinny.
That's 80% of the crowd.
That's my son. He passed. No, the kid. College.
Does he play video games?
Yes, why?
If your son plays video games, then he's probably a violent rapist.
Where does he play?
He's probably leveling up in your basement as we speak. You don't
Have a movie.
I've been reading articles online.
Were those articles by Kotaku?
I mean, is this Noah's future? Adolescent boys playing cyborg cowboys and Indians?
Mothers, be afraid. Your son may become a gamer. He may play cowboys and Indians virtually. In other words, become a violent rapist.
Great. Ben, do you think that there's still
I bet it involves rape according to SVU.
Rape is a mod in level 16 of COGS.
So 20 years of gaming or whatever it is you do with that controller finally paid off.
The implication being that video games made him good at shooting, not his training as a police officer. Ironically, they go on to say that it's gamers that don't know the difference between a video game and real life.
See, I know the difference between video games and reality. Those guys didn't.
What? Not like shooting a video game, huh? Actually, it's exactly the same. All right, you need to think.
Meanwhile, these SJWs can't tell the difference between reality and an SVU episode. If it wasn't enough to portray gamers as women-hating rapists, they also had to portray them as ISIS.
I realize now that gaming is no place for females.
صليل الصوارم نشيد الأباء ودرب القتال طريق الحياة.
Sounds crazy? Only as crazy as the Dell executive George Reese. As a Syrian whose country is being attacked by ISIS, I find this both comical and enraging.
Showing the world that I'm intimidated by cyber terrorists.
This link was just uploaded to Red Channel.
This is what happens to slut bitches who mess with gamers.
Notice he said gamers, so it's associating all gamers with ISIS terrorists and rapists.
So that the player...
Come on! How did they manage to hack a billboard? Even the Syrian Electronic Army couldn't do that. Now that gamers have been sufficiently demonized, we'd agree that shooting them would be okay. Violence is okay, so long as it's not virtual violence. Thank you, SVU, for that important lesson. That's it from me. I'll see you all on the darknet.
I can hardly wait to see what she'll do to the Zoe Quinn movie. She was very upset that they turned gamers into ISIS terrorists, and I think you can understand why. Blames Obama and Hillary for the country's problems. She has said about the refugee problem, they are making it worse. Took a dig at Hillary.
But now, it's up to you to get it right.
Now that women are in charge, we can get it right. Because women are inherently non-violent. Just look at Hillary Clinton.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
She's a whore.
Find the Amazon.
The response to the SVU episode, clearly no fan. Next to Syrian-Girl, Anita is a ragdoll.
We've talked about Gamergate before, certainly on my YouTube channel. Maybe not generally for the Alex Jones Show audience. So try to explain in 1 minute what Gamergate is. And this has been a difficult task for most people because many are still completely ignorant as to what Gamergate is as a movement, as a phenomenon. And then we'll get into this video. So 1 minute, what's Gamergate? What's it all about?
Well, it's been happening for a year, but basically, there's an agenda to use video games to socially engineer and brainwash children. And the people who have this agenda got sort of a slight bit of a backlash from people who enjoy video games just for the sake of playing the games. And as a result of this, this resistance that the gamers were putting up to the brainwashing agenda, the media began to attack the gamers themselves. And from that media attack, the gamers decided that, oh, the media must be corrupt. And they began to expose not only the media, but the people behind the agenda to brainwash people, to brainwash the next generation, basically employing video games.
So this is about the fact that video games are the biggest entertainment industry on the planet, bigger than movies. They're having problem embedding their social engineering in, sitcoms or news or whatever because they're getting less and less views. So they basically got together and decided they need to insert this politically correct social engineering into video games. We've got a clip coming up which is 30 seconds long. Just introduce this clip. 20 seconds, go.
Well, SEAL Team 6 is a crew that investigates and digs up evidence of the fact that there are many agendas trying to use video games to brainwash. And they produced this documentary, and this is the introduction to a series of documentaries that they're going to be releasing in the coming days.
Okay, let's go to the clip. Here it is.
We have an opportunity to create a new form of games.
We need to design games that are good for learning.
We can change people's perspective on race or on gender through play.
Motivation and changing behavior.
So through the Difference Engine initiative, we seek to plant the seeds of change.
Yeah, I have an agenda, sorry.
But it works, and I don't know how it works.
So they have an agenda to change people's behavior through video games. Explain why that's so insidious.
It's really insidious because they're pumping millions and millions of dollars into trying to promote their own version of what society should look like, and the government is involved in this. The United States government is involved in this, as is the Bill Gates Foundation. Many agendas going into this, and they've been using television and other forms of media to do this in the past. To promote their wars and to promote other social reconstruction agendas, as you've talked about many times on the Alex Jones Show. And this is just another facet of the prison planet, which you've been discussing.
And we're going to have you back on to talk about that in the future because we've run out of time. Quick 30-second plug for your YouTube channel, how people can find you.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Please join me on my YouTube channel, Syrian-Girl Partisan. Google Syrian-Girl Partisan or Partisan Girl, and my YouTube channel should come up.
So you came out with a video last week, I believe. It's extremely popular, got over 300,000-400,000 views, pointing out what the media refuses to report about this migrant crisis, which is what I've done over the past couple of weeks, and had basically 8 million views combined on Facebook and YouTube, just the past 3 videos. People are thirsty for the truth because they're not seeing it on BBC. They're not seeing it on CNN. They're not seeing it on Fox News, who are just blithely reporting that these are Syrian families coming in. They need refuge. They need shelter, when the truth is very much the opposite of that. And in fact, the character of these refugees is being denigrated by the behavior of those who are hijacking the crisis. So talk about the fact that many of these migrants, 90% of them in some areas, are claiming to be Syrian, yet have no documentation whatsoever to prove it. Who's hijacking this crisis and why are they doing it?
Well, there's multiple people hijacking the crisis. I think the top level people would be the business owners and the corporate people who want to basically crash the wages of Europe by bringing in cheap workers from overseas. That would be the number one type of people
welcome this
hijacking it.
wave of migrants, half of whom aren't Syrian, the other half, 90%, can't prove they're Syrian. And then we had this story a couple of weeks ago, which was really the bellwether emotional manipulation that they needed to really get Western governments and populations to invite this wave of people in, which was the tragic case of the boy who was drowned on a Turkish beach. That was completely misreported. We only found out the truth about exactly what happened, the details of that incident, days later. Tell us about what actually happened in the lead up to how that boy ended up being drowned on a Turkish beach.
Well, honestly, I'm not sure about the specific details. I did hear various reports that the boy's father, he was they're actually from the city of Kobani, and that was a city that has been shelled by the U.S. because ISIS is present there, but they're Kurds, they're against ISIS, and they've been living in Turkey.
But they were already in Turkey.
Yes,
they
were
weren't
living for
fleeing
3 years.
Syria. They were fleeing Turkey to try and get to European welfare states, right? So they were already safe in Turkey.
Case.
That wasn't communicated in the original story. Then it turns out that the driver of the boat that ended up with this boy being drowned was the father himself. They were quite a wealthy family. He was trying to get his teeth done in Canada or whatever. So it was completely misreported. It was, these people are fleeing from Syria, these poor refugees, and the little boy ends up dead, which is tragic. But they don't tell the whole side of the story.
There's been many drownings. He wasn't the only boy. I mean, if you want to talk about kids drowning, it's been happening since a month before. So whether they take this specific case that he was trying to get his teeth fixed, the fact is that living in a tent for 3 years in Turkey, whether it turns out he is the smuggler or not, he denies that he was the smuggler. There was a report about that. But in any case, whatever the details.
No, he was driving the boat and he had paid people smugglers.
Oh, he claims that's a lie, but I don't know.
Claims now, okay.
Well, but it doesn't. The specifics.
But I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't tragic. It was, but it was misreported from the very beginning, right? So why are they doing that? Why does the media suddenly care about Syrian children when they were pushing to bomb Syrian children for 2-3 years? In 2012, 2013. Why do they suddenly care about this little boy when they wanted to bomb Syria? They were pushing the agenda
on the day that he died, another little girl was bombed in Syria by the Syrian rebels that they were supporting. But that's not something that they report on. So no matter what the specifics of this child and the surrounding case, there have been multiple children that have been drowning over the last few months. 2 months ago, there was an 11-year-old girl that died off the coast of Egypt. The reporting, the media, and their reporting is constantly biased, and there's an agenda behind it, and it's never a humanitarian agenda. No matter the specifics of this case and the guy wanting to fix his teeth, whether he was convinced that by the people around him that it would be a good idea, or if his situation was very bad, living in a tent, or his teeth were infected. It's a sad case, but it's not the only case. The global idea of it is there are 10 million people, and you cannot airlift all of them to Europe from Syria. And the only solution is to allow them to return home by ending the war, ending the funding of terrorism, fixing the buildings, and letting them go home, because that's the best solution for everybody that's concerned. The thing is that the people who are coming out of the countries, many of them are scientists and engineers, and there's this big brain drain happening. And even if you don't take serious case, but the refugee crisis as a whole, you've got the sub-Saharan Africans countries still paying a tax to France, which and suppressing their economy from ever building up to keep their workers, young male workers, at home. This is all being created, and no matter the circumstances, I did hear the report of the woman accusing the man of being the smuggler, but I just, you have
to, again, the main point is you go to the source, right? Don't destabilize secular governments in the Middle East. Don't arm and fund jihadists that overthrow those secular governments, as we saw in Libya, which was the most prosperous country in Africa before the overthrow of Gaddafi, right? As soon as they got rid of Gaddafi, who, like Saddam Hussein, was a tyrant in his own way, and we don't support him, they were putting black people in concentration camps. Tribal warlords were running the country, and it completely collapsed. And that's what started this migrant crisis, with a wave of people coming over in boats because they're trying to escape the hell that these NATO powers created in the first place. But that still is never mentioned in mainstream media coverage. They don't even allude to it in many cases. So I've said it a million times. It sounds like a cliche now, but I still say it because they refuse to talk about it. And this is the truth that people want to hear, which is why your video was super successful, which is why the videos I've put out have gone viral.